of the American population in those 35 states who have the right to have wine shipped to them, and also the wineries that are in those states have the right to ship wine out of state and have the right to ship wine within their particular state. So my bill is a free market, public interest, common sense measure. Senate Bill 338 would simply give the good people of Maryland the exact same right that the hundreds of millions of Americans have in all those other states, which is the right to have wine shipped to their homes. It will also give the wineries in our state, which are struggling to create a wine industry and a wine culture in Maryland, the right to ship wine out of state and in state. Right now, there's a total ban on it, so they can't ship out of state, nor can they even ship in state. So if you've got a winery in Southern Maryland or Eastern Shore, they can't ship to Baltimore, they can't ship to Montgomery County or Prince George's County, so that means people have to go to them, or they have to depend on one of the distributors, which may or may not want to work with them. Now, the consumers of this state overwhelmingly want it. You're going to hear testimony from a lot of consumers and consumer groups that want to have the right to have wine shipped to them. Unfortunately, right now, our legal regime creates a serious moral hazard and a perverse incentive. What do Marylanders do who love wine? And I should say I am not a wine enthusiast or lover. Since I've gotten to this issue, I've tried to taste a little bit, but I'm something of a teetotaler. I don't have real tolerance for it. But there are people who really love wine a lot. And right now, what they're forced to do, if their local liquor store doesn't carry a particular wine they want, is to have wine shipped to the District of Columbia, or wine shipped to Virginia, or West Virginia, neighboring jurisdictions which allow it, and then sneak it in. They're basically evading and breaking our law, but we know it's taking place all the time. And I hear from people all the time who say, yes, we're having wine shipped to these other jurisdictions. Virginia, which went several years ago to become a direct shipment state, now captures hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We could be capturing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in creating the direct wine shipment license that we would sell to wineries and distributors in other parts of the country that want to ship into Maryland. We would be making about $80,000 or $90,000 a year alone on that, because they would pay $200 for a one-time application fee and then $100 a year, as a continuing permitting license. Virginia, which is probably the best example because it's in our neighborhood, it's got similar, market and size and so on, has been making somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 a year, and presumably would be making less if we allow people to have wine shipped directly into the state. Now, it seems to me that this is a free market and public interest principle that should unify us across party lines, and in fact, if you look at the many co-sponsors of this legislation, you will see many progressive Democrats, many conservative Republicans, and I think everybody can unify around the theory that there should be consumer sovereignty unless there's some compelling reason not to have it. Why shouldn't the consumers be able to purchase the wine that they want to get? And at the same time, it's public interest legislation because it's going to bring real revenue into the state at a time of dramatic budgetary crisis. I don't need to tell the members of this committee about that. So, what are the objections leveled against it? I think that there's only one that is really attempted in a serious way. And that's that if we allow direct wine shipment, we are going to increase and promote underage drinking. Now, this is easily refutable. First of all, there was a Federal Trade Commission study in 2003 which studied 11 states that have direct shipment and found no increase in underage drinking because of it. And there are multiple studies that confirm that. In fact, none of the dozens of states that allow direct shipment of wine report any problems with it. None of them have anybody coming into their legislature, including the people who are going to testify against my bill, to say that that law should be repealed because it's harming the minors of the state. It's simply a red herring. And in order to believe it, the opponents basically invite us to believe a series of incredible things. Number one, that young people underage want to drink wine rather than beer. Number two, that they're going to take their parents' credit card, go on the internet, or maybe fly to Northern California to wine country and place a direct order to have wine shipped back to their house while they're at school during the day, and then have the UPS or FedEx driver present their parents with a piece of paper which says, I am 21 years of age or above, and certify it. And then they'll get their bottle of wine a week or two later, as opposed to the real problem, of course, which is them getting someone that they know who's above age to go down to the neighborhood liquor store and buy them a couple 6-packs of beer. So we know where the real problems with underage drinking are, and we know which forces in our state are trying to deal with the problems of underage drinking, and which forces are trying to thwart and frustrate our ability to deal with the real problem of underage drinking. The bill, if you check it out, has a requirement that the shipment be signed for by someone who's 21 years of over. You will hear testimony from a representative of UPS about how this works very successfully in other states and how there have not been problems. Now I understand, I haven't had a chance to see it, but I understand that the University of Maryland is actually concerned because there are people obviously under 21 who live there, and so it would not be parents who would be receiving such a shipment, and they're concerned that they would have a residential advisor who could conceivably sign for this. I don't think that's a serious problem, but out of a gesture of respect and interest in compromise, I'd be very happy to accept an amendment which would say no shipments to university campuses could be allowed under the law, because I don't think that it's a serious issue, and it's no problem. That's not what this is about. We're not trying to get wine to minors here. We're trying to get wine to the mature adult citizens of Maryland who have every right to get it. And let me just say in closing, Mr. Chairman, that this is a bill which I hear about all the time, and I've got some bills which I like a lot, including the anti-spying legislation, but I get more emails and more phone calls and more letters from every part of the state about this bill than anything else that I'm working on right now. And I think that the opposition to this is far more isolated and is identified with people who are involved in the industry, and I think that that's fine. They have every right to be here. But I think that what we have is the interest of a mass number of people across the state against people who are invested in the particular system. And let me just say finally about that. Amongst the states that have moved to direct shipment of wine are several which have similar control type systems as we have, 3-tier systems, including New Hampshire, which is quite analogous to what we've got. And I believe, if you look at it, they have found that going to direct shipment of wine does not undermine in any way the 3-tier system. And in fact, you'll hear some testimony about how allowing direct shipment of wine stimulates the wine market. So it's almost as if a rising tide in wine lifts all glasses at the same time. The liquor stores are not damaged or impaired in any way by this, and it's just giving our consumers more freedom and giving our wineries the right to compete equally. The reason why Virginia, or one reason why Virginia has more than 90 wineries and now a thriving wine culture, and they're becoming a tourist destination for wine, and we have, I think, 35 or 36, is precisely because they're allowed to have a free market, and we're not. So I think that we should overthrow our antique, obsolescent, prohibition-era laws with respect to this one thing and allow wine to be shipped in the state, and I think we can make it completely harmonious and compatible with the basic structure that we would retain in the state. Thank you very much for your attention.
Other questions for